Seminar. We're very excited about the forthcoming partnership between our program with Fulbright Poland. We have had excellent students from Poland in the past. In fact, one of our current doctoral candidates was one of my very best students, hails from Poland and does a lot of research involving Poland on international law and international human rights law. So to introduce, I think we've been introduced, but probably let me just briefly describe our roles in the program and then proceed to discuss the nature of the program. And Jean-Marc will go on to discuss some of the practical aspects of the program. I will discuss the curricular aspects of the program. So my name is Diane Desierto. I am the director of the LLM program in International Human Rights Law at Notre Dame. I'm also the founding director of our Global Human Rights Clinic, which is the experiential learning unit of our human rights program. I am a professor of law and global affairs. I have a full tenured professorship here at the law school, as well as at the Keough School of Global Affairs at the University of Notre Dame. And under that umbrella, I think of it as I direct a program, I direct a clinic, and I also direct a lab, a research lab at the Keough School of Global Affairs, which is the reparations lab. The program is very well known among many human rights lawyers because it's been in existence for 50 years. It is consistently one of the top 10 LLM programs in international human rights law under LLM Guide, and has also been cited as one of the best human rights law schools in the world under the best law schools rankings. The program is distinct from most specialized degrees in LLM and international human rights law because to the extent that we provide a very specific and targeted curriculum that's designed to accelerate the human rights work or the human rights interests of our students, we get students at a very early level, either entry level or even at a very senior level. What we are looking for in this program, it's a very close cohort of between 15 to 20 students who are usually human rights lawyers, academics, judges, practitioners, from civil society advocates from all over the world. We get them from Oceania, from Asia, from Latin America, from Africa, as well as from Eastern Europe. We get to form an experience for the students, a curricular experience from the students that is very rigorous and fueled by the natural law, jurisprudence, and international human rights law scholarship and teaching of our faculty. If you take a close look at our faculty webpage, you will see that there is a very cohesive approach to this curriculum. It is driven by colleagues such as myself, Professor Roger Alford, who teaches business and human rights and antitrust law and international arbitration, Professor Michael Addo, who is the chair of the Business and Human Rights Working Group at the United Nations, and who heads our London Law Program, Professor Paolo Carrozza, who's extremely well known as part of the Venice Commission, former president of the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights, currently a member of Meta's Oversight Board. There's also Professor Francisco Urbina, was also formerly a state representative of the government of Chile, but also very well known in his scholarship in jurisprudence and international human rights law. And then we have Professor Mary Ellen O'Connell, who deals with use of force, who with me teaches international law at Notre Dame Law School, also teaches international dispute resolution and cultural heritage law. And Professor Paul Miller, who teaches more on the private law and jurisprudence side of the program. So that's just a small sampling of the faculty. If you go to the Human Rights Program website, you will see who the program faculty are. But part of the curricular distinctions of this program, separate from any other program around the world, is the intentionality we have in cultivating students' expertise in interrelated international law, human rights law, jurisprudence issues, which is not often offered anymore in many law schools. But that's with reason. We want our students to be able to not just pursue their studies of human rights from the metaphysical standpoint of understanding what rights actually entail. And that's one end of the spectrum where we engage natural law and jurisprudence, for which this law school leads the country in that scholarship, but also at the very end towards looking at how to reach the human rights outcomes. What we often say here is this is why in my scholarship, I focus on the interdisciplinarity of human rights law with multiple regimes, not just in law, but also outside law, which is why we also create opportunities for our students to pursue their research in an interdisciplinary way. That's also encouraged on our end, precisely because human rights work is no longer as straightforwardly legal as it used to be when I was a student. Human rights law now requires engaging multiple audiences and multiple areas of expertise, which thankfully we are able to access and provide for our students in light of the multiple opportunities that are provided within the wider university. So the Clow Institute for Civil and Human Rights, the Kellogg Institute of International Studies, the Pulte Institute on Global Development, Nanovic Institute of European Studies, to name a few, have tended to host our students either as research associates, research collaborators, or policy experts. So off the top of the arrival of students, there's a multitude of opportunities that students can pursue to continue both their pedagogic and their practical work in international human rights law. So the curriculum is also intended to sharpen students' research and writing skills, which is why we have dedicated every LLM student, unlike my alma mater, every LLM student over here gets a dedicated librarian assisting them with the demands of the legal research for their classes, and also to be able to pursue their independent projects in the course of the year. So the goal is, most importantly, in the curriculum, what we like to say in shorthand is, we do not do human rights work. We start with loving the human first and foremost, and understanding the human before we start doing the rights work. And that's probably, in a nutshell, what summarizes the difference between the formation and a pedagogic experience at Notre Dame Law School. Because there is a deep anthropological sort of, standpoint where we're coming from in natural law and jurisprudence that constantly, provokes us to inquire what the lived experiences are of persons who are seeking to access rights and seeking to have those rights implemented in practical situations, which is why it's very important for us modeling this in the class of 15 to 20 students, that accompaniment between the students coming from different backgrounds, different experiences of human rights law, that all of these are exemplified in the intensive 9 months of community that they learn to forge together with the faculty and the staff and the wider graduate programs at Notre Dame Law School. It's very important to us, and it is intentional on our end to cultivate just a small class of 15 to 20 students, because unlike other programs that try to look at the LLM program as a revenue generating activity, the human rights program for us is not set up with that goal. It was set up by Father Ted Hesburgh with a goal of supporting the work of human rights lawyers, beginning with jurists in apartheid South Africa. So because the mission on our end is to ensure that we support our human rights LLM students in their existing work and to open wider opportunities for our students to accelerate their work, the program does not only commit to providing scholarships, whether full tuition scholarships or partial scholarships, it commits to also provide funding for the second year, which is the postgraduate internship or clerkship opportunities. So our students frequently will clerk at the Inter-American Court of Human Rights, the African Court of Human Rights, the International Criminal Court, the European Court of Human Rights, the international tribunals, arbitral tribunals. And so there's diversity, as well as the UN Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, that has tended to hire our students. And the goal on our end is, whatsoever the field of endeavor of the student will be after graduation, our commitment extends beyond the 9 months. providing that postgraduate funding is one way of doing it. The second way is also continuously integrating our alumni and getting them involved in active mentorship with our students. So Jean-Marc Brissau, who teaches our graduate program seminar, regularly engages with our alumni, distinguished alumni from all over the world. So they're now working. One is the Secretary General of the African Development Bank. Several are working as delegates at the International Committee on the Red Cross. Several are working at the United Nations. Several are working in countries. So the constant connectedness between our alumni and our faculty has been the distinguishing feature of this program in many respects, because we truly exemplify the accompaniment that we say we teach. That is exactly what we teach, that accompaniment exists even well after graduation, and that happens even years after the fact. Before I turn to Jean-Marc, I will talk about the latest development in our curriculum, which is probably the more visible development from the website that's just been featured, and that is the opening of our Global Human Rights Clinic. The Global Human Rights Clinic was intentionally opened after 50 years that this program has been in operation. And the reason why it was created for the first time in the 154th year of Notre Dame Law School, the 50th year of the program, the 75th year of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, is that this is intended to be the experiential learning unit of the program that integrates students of this clinic with the Juris Doctor students, those who are taking the 3-year law degree, the US law degree, doctoral students, as well as undergraduate students, working together, gaining firsthand experience, undertaking legal representation for global clients. And our students work under my supervision and that of other licensed attorneys in the clinic, such as Professor Jean-Marc Brissau. We have legal fellows, the board of advisors, the faculty board of advisors, our practitioner in residence who just recently was here, Justice Pablo Saavedra of the Inter-American Court of Human Rights. And the representation, based on my own experience in another law school where we had clinic, this is intended to be very different. Our students work actively, not just on writing amicus briefs, but actually knowing what it is day to day to represent clients. So they will undertake work that begins with initiating complaints, doing the assessment of the possible human rights remedies for clients, learning how to listen and learning how to counsel clients, but also getting exposed to a range of different human rights matters that the clinic is now actively handling. So among and the clinic is specifically oriented towards serving constituencies that are not served in the world. So we don't try to intervene in cases, for example, that already have so many lawyers, because much as those are really important, we feel that our mission as Notre Dame to be a force for good, to be consistent with our Catholic mission, is to serve under, some understanding of the preferential option for the poor, howsoever that means in terms of deprivation. So among some of the constituencies we serve, for example, involve representing persecuted religious orders in Nicaragua and Ukraine. We also represent and work on cases involving small island developing states that are facing climate change, development, and human rights risks, even more so in the present time. We also represent women journalists through the International Federation of Journalists, women journalists who have been targeted in Asia, the Middle East, Latin America, Eastern Europe. We are also representing children who are working together with UNICEF Innocenti, children who are primarily displaced in armed conflicts and climate disasters. We also look to assist the Special Rapporteur of the Organization of American States on issues involving persons with disabilities in Latin America. We work on the right to education in religious instruction. We're assisting rural farmers in the Sahel region in Africa. And we're also looking at supporting women and children victims of human trafficking in Asia, Africa, Latin America, Eastern Europe, and the Middle East through our work with the Migrant Workers Forum. So that's just a small sampling of the active projects that we do handle. And the reason why we trust our cohort of human rights lawyers to come and contribute, they're not just passively receiving an education, they're also helping to co-educate their colleagues about the specific expertise that they have in their jurisdiction and be open to learning about the practice of international human rights law across different areas. And so this kind of problem solving has been inspiring for us at the clinic and at the program, because more than ever, there's the opportunity not just to represent, but also to advocate, not just to advocate, but also to educate. And so we come full circle in the education that we are very privileged to be able to provide to our students. We are very invested in committing to our students' success. And the only barometer for us of our student success is how well they do on the ground as international human rights lawyers in whichever field, whether it's public or private, because these days, international human rights law practice now extends beyond the traditional confines of litigation. It extends to policy work. It extends to doing what we have to do to realize the human rights outcomes that the world needs right now. So I'm very excited about this opportunity with Fulbright Poland. I'm going to turn over to Jean-Marc, who can discuss some of the practical aspects of living in South Bend and all the adjustments that have to be made, especially to this weather. Jean-Marc, please go ahead.
Thank you, Diane, and thank you to those attending to this webinar. By now, you already have a feel of what we do here at Notre Dame, which is educating a different kind of lawyer for the world. Because here at Notre Dame, we are not just forming students to go out there and make money. Yes, as a lawyer, you can make money, but also we are here to train people to practice law, and then we see it as service to others. Our view here at Notre Dame of legal education is inspired by our faith, our tradition as a religious Catholic law school, where we embrace people of all background and illustrate the possibility of dialogue between the reason and faith. So students who come here, like Professor Desierto was saying, they go everywhere. They go work and in government and public sector and human rights organizations and stuff. We have a wide range of alumni network that is, I would say it's the most vibrant alumni network in the world. We have about 8,300 alumni. That's for the whole law school, and they are spread around 80 countries around the world. And for us at the HRLLM program alone, we have about 600 alumni that is spread around the world. So we have this program that is more than 50 years that's existed here at Notre Dame. And from the history of this program, we have had prime ministers, people working at the World Bank, people working at the Inter-American Court, in European Court of Human Rights, and at the ICC. So we have people everywhere around the world. So if you want to have a feel of where is this university located, and I'm going to tell you right now, people, when you say, South Bend, they say, what? Where? South Bend? Well, in order for you to have a close look to where South Bend is, and if you're looking, just consider Chicago, for example. And if you fly into Chicago, South Bend is located about 90 miles from southeast of Chicago. And from there, you take a train, or you take a flight, or you take an Uber, and it's only 90 miles. So it's pretty close. from Chicago. At the law school, we have about 30 plus student organizations. It's for sure when you come here as a student, you will find an organization where you can strive here at Notre Dame. And also we have a lot of variety of sports, you know, football for some of you who love football, and all other sports we have here on campus. Also, we have 2 lakes around the campus, and then they are called, that's why the university is called University of Notre Dame du Lac. Du Lac means of the lakes. And well, if you're looking for season, we have all 4 seasons here. We are just at the beginning of the spring, where, you know, we're gonna see the green coming again, although I can tell you that there's some flakes, snowflakes still coming out, but it's not gonna be for too long. So this is just to talk about the university and where it is located. It's one of the most beautiful campus around the US. And if you're planning to come here, you know, you expect, like I said, to have all four seasons. And during the winter, it can get a little chilly. And if you're from Poland, this is for sure that you have at least been in the cold weather. So that will not be so frightening for you as it was for me when I first came here in 2007, coming from the Caribbean, where it is hot all the time. So now, if we go to practicalities now, as Professor Desierto mentioned, to talk about the dates, the deadlines, etc. So the application usually it starts by November 1st. Usually by November 1st, you know, we start receiving applications. Hopefully this time it can start earlier, but expect the LSAC application period to start from November 1st and end on March 15. So for this cohort, last Friday, March 15 was the last day to submit your application. And the application is submitted through our LSAC system. The system is not a Notre Dame system. It's a system that is receiving applications for many law schools around the US. And therefore, when they receive it, they translate it, they make the evaluation of your grades and your diploma, and to make sure that you are qualified to apply to our program. So what does it require? In order to apply for this program, you would need a bachelor's degree in law from either an accredited college or university, or you have a JD from an ABA approved American law school if you did your studies here in America. And if you didn't attend an English school, or you're not from an English speaking country, then you will have to provide a TOEFL 100. You have to have 100 point from your TOEFL score, which is an English proficiency test, or the IELTS. It's 7. It's a 7 point you have to get from the IELTS. So 100 for TOEFL and then 7 for that one. Additionally, you have to provide a personal statement, your resume, and also 3 letters of recommendation that will have to be sent directly to LSAC. Sometimes people ask me, you know, can I send you the letter? Can I send you the resume? No, everything has to be submitted to LSAC. While the personal statement can be submitted by you, but the letters of recommendation and your transcript have to be submitted directly to LSAC, because the university will not accept any personal document to come through it. So please follow the process so that you do not have an incomplete file by the time the committee reviews your file. always make sure that the application deadline is, you apply way before the application deadline, because it takes another 2 weeks for for LSAC to submit the document, the full document, to the university, so that the admission committee could review it. So if you have questions regarding the application process, the dates, the deadline, and the fees, please reach out. But just know that the LSAC application fee is not waivable, because we do not control that. It's something that LSAC charge every prospective applicant, so we cannot waive that. So you'll have to work around this with your sponsoring organizations. So that's where I will stop now. If you have questions, please do not hesitate to send them my way, and I'll be happy to address your questions.
I think before we go there, I'm just going to supplement what Jean-Marc said. Thank you, Jean-Marc. I also chair the faculty admissions committee for this program, so perhaps it might be helpful to remind applicants to spend some time on your Why Notre Dame Law School statement. That gives a lot of information to the faculty about your specific interests in the law school and in the program, and also allows us to get to know you better. And so there are many applicants who tend to sort of just send something, but we as the committee do tend to take a very close look at the Why Notre Dame Law School. And it's with reason, because on our end, we give about 15 to 20 full tuition scholarships a year. So it's an investment on our end to get to know who to support and why their work in particular is something that's compelling for us and is aligned with our mission as a law school and in our wider work of supporting international human rights work. So I'll just caution and invite applicants to pay attention to your statement. The second thing I will say is, it's not often discussed, but perhaps we should integrate this in our materials and the website. The University of Notre Dame has a very wonderful international and global footprint. Like, among any law schools in the world, we are the only one that has an actual campus in London with Notre Dame Law School's London program. We have other campuses in Rome, in Ireland, as well as gateways in, I think, Beijing, India, Sao Paulo. So the footprint of Notre Dame, the University of Notre Dame, when we talk about where it is, when anybody asks me, I often say we're all over the world. So our students, in fact, under the LLM program, because it's 9 months, have, focus on their courses and their projects and their work with colleagues and faculty, but they're also not lacking in travel opportunities. So a classic example I have is that the clinic students will be joining me at oral arguments in Bridgetown, Barbados, in the world's public hearing being organized by the Inter-American Court of Human Rights on climate change and human rights. That's just one of those examples where we take our students and enable them to have those travel opportunities in the course of the academic year. So there's a way to do it. There's a way to also collaborate with different aspects of Notre Dame International's experiences for our students. But often, this is where I come in as the faculty director. I pin down those priorities of students very early in the fall to start creating those opportunities for the students throughout the rest of the year. In fact, many of our students are focused on getting their clerkships, lining up their internships at the United Nations, lining up several will be working in Geneva. So there's a lot of back and forth that's really characteristic of this program, because we focus very much on each and every member of the class.
So you have to apply to the Fulbright Commission. You have to put your application, submit your application via Slate system. All the info you will find on our website, so don't worry, all information will get there. But I'm very happy that Diane and Jean-Marc are with us today, because after the submission after you submit your application to the Fulbright and you got a nomination, you have to apply to the program. You have to apply to the LLM in International Human Rights Law at University of Notre Dame. So that's great that you inform us about the procedure. So if you have any questions, it's the best opportunity for you right now to ask them. So so first of all, you apply to the Fulbright Commission. You have to submit your application no later than April 2022 at 3 p.m. Remember about that, because we changed that. We had our time, it was like just before the midnight, and right now it's 3 p.m. So remember about that, and don't wait with your application to the end of the deadline. So yeah, and then you have to put all the documents. So personal statement, you have to put their study research objective, 2 recommendation letters, transcripts, of course, all information you will find at our website. Then after your application will be submitted, I review your application. I check if all of the information you put there, if yes, everything is great, your application is in the review process. And then after review process, if your application gets very great points, and I wish you that, of course, then you are invited for an interview. And Diane will be the one of the people who will be there to talk with you. And then after the application and all, review process, interviews, so you got the nomination, you have to apply to the University of Notre Dame. And maybe you found this information on our website, but you will be self-placed. It means that you have to, it's your responsibility to put all information, all documents to the University of Notre Dame. So that's why it's very important to remember to go to the website to check all the info, all the documents, to follow the instructions, like to take time to write personal statement and etc. So please remember about that. And maybe I will add something more, that we are responsible for all your visa process, because the Fulbright Commission is responsible for J1 visa. I mean, we gather all the documents, your passport, etc., and we submit information to the Department of State, and then you will get your J1 visa to go to US for 9 months. So yeah. So I think this is, just to motivate you to apply. I think it's a great program, and I'm very happy and proud to be part of it. I mean, as a coordinator here in Poland. So thank you very much. And
yes, you don't have to suspend your PhD. We have had students who were also doctoral students in other universities who have taken this master's degree, because it's a very specific, focused master's degree on international human rights law. So not a problem for us.
From the Fulbright Commission, you can't finish your studies before the program ends. I mean, you can be a doctor, or you can just put your dissertation to a review process. If you don't do that, it's okay for us. Of course, you can go to the US for LLM and be a doctoral student here in Poland, but you remember, you can't finish your studies or defend your thesis. Yes, I have to say that I receive many questions from doctoral students who are right now at doctoral level. And then
no, that's excellent. Many of our students, actually, there's several in among our student cohort every year who are doctoral candidates. And some, some even later on, if they choose to do a double doctorate, like we have one current doctoral candidate at Notre Dame Law School who has a co-tutelle arrangement with Sorbonne. So he was brought into the program. We made the arrangements to make it possible to have 2, so that he's graduating with both a Paris doctorate and a Notre Dame Law School doctorate. So that's never been prohibitive for us.
That's a great question. Thank you. Okay, do you have any more questions? Okay.
Well, I'm going to say I'm excited to get more applicants from Poland. I mean, we have our law school has always had a very strong connection with Poland. I have very wonderful colleagues in international law who teach in Jagiellonia that I'm regularly in touch with. And so this opportunity for us to collaborate is wonderful. In fact, the dean of the law school and the leadership of the law school were just in Poland last fall, was it? Or early summer, Jean-Marc, in 2023, as part of the commitment to have those exchanges and to get more of our students from Poland if we can. And so my experience has been nothing but positive. So I look forward to seeing a lot of great students from Fulbright Poland join us soon here.
Great, thank you very
Unfortunately, I
much.
do have to teach in about 2 minutes. So if
Yes,
it's
of course.
I would suggest, and I'll type it here on the chat box. Any questions involving our program are accessible, could be sent to this email address, and either myself or Jean-Marc or any of our staff members will reply.